My name's Austin.
My name's Ross.
Okay. This is All Sports News Show, where we cover almost every sport there is. That's my dog. Yeah, don't mind her. We're going to start. Ross specializes in NBA and NCAA football, and I pretty much do almost anything. Not as much NBA, but I do a lot of NFL stuff and stuff like that. So let's talk a little bit about NBA. You like the Lakers?
Yeah. Lakers, this year, looking pretty sad. Kobe Bryant, if you haven't heard, biggest new comment, they're old. Well, the problem I have with that is Miami and New York are the only two teams that are older than the Lakers right now. But, to Lakers' disadvantage, they're the top two teams in the Eastern Conference. So, when he says they're old, I don't take that as excuse. I take more young as excuse, teams that are growing, but old, I think they should be all-stars. They should be playing the best of their game. And so I think Kobe's comment as they're old, I don't see how that has anything to do with why they're losing at this point.
As you can see, I'm an Orlando Magic fan, and we've had a rough season this far, but at least Dwight's not doing squat for you, so I feel a bit better about that. I hate that folder now. That's why it's for my notebook paper. But we like sports teams. We can both agree on liking the Rays and the Bucks. Let's move on to the Bucks.
Okay.
They had a pretty good season. Disappointment at the end with losing 5 games in a row, but 7-9. Look at Greg Schiano's first year. 7-9 isn't that bad.
You know, it's a great year for the Bucks. I mean, they're growing. Everyone's growing up, getting more mature. They got their running back, a rookie running back, had a great year this year. I think next year you should see him to be one of the most dominant players in the NFL. As we speak, I'm going to ask Austin Burnett if he can give us one word to describe the Buccaneers, maybe season, and what they should be like next year.
Okay, first of all, before we do the word game, I just have this little piece of paper. I hope that you can see this. It says Dougie Fresh for Rookie of the Year. I know you're going to look at RG3 and all these other guys. Dougie Fresh, Doug Martin, our rookie running back, has been a beast. 250 yards against the Oakland Raiders. I know they're not a great run defense, but 250 yards against any team is impressive. And 4 touchdowns, he was just breaking loose. Now, AP's been good. And I'll give it to you, he's been better this season. But give me Dougie Fresh over the long haul.
And another thing I have to say is Rondé Barber has been playing great. Their defense is improving. I think Buccaneers' biggest problem is closing out games in the end. When it comes to the fourth quarter, they have to take the advantage of at least some of those games to rally back. Austin has a word. I said a word for the Buccaneers in their season this year and what they should be like next year. So let's see what he wrote.
This is for this year and next year. Now, you'll look at probably us. You know, it was a tough season for us this year at the end of the year. But we are youngry. Now, I'll bring that a little closer. That is a combination of young and hungry. Okay. Well, we didn't finish the season well, but we're a young team. We're an improving team, and we're gonna get there eventually. Just give us some time. We have a good.
I have a word.
We have a good young group of players: Josh Freeman, Doug Martin, and Vincent Jackson. When we need to improve the defense, defensive line was okay. Defensive backfield, it was awful. So we're improving. We'll get there.
I have a word, and I put hair. And it might look like a stupid word for right now, but the reason I put hair was because if you look back, the tortoise and the hare. Tortoise started out slow, but he finished the race strong. The hare fell asleep somewhat through the race. I think that's what the Buccaneers did was they kind of fell asleep at the end of the fourth quarter. They fell asleep, let those games fly by, and at the end of the season, they fell asleep and they sucked.
Okay. So that's enough about the Bucks. Let's talk about the who else?
Let's talk a little bit about the Buccaneers.
We talked about the Buccaneers.
I mean the Tampa Bay Rays.
Let's talk about the Rays. Now, there's some interesting offseason news. It is the offseason. This is January, so they're not starting for a couple more months, but big trade a few months ago.
James Shields.
I know he was your favorite
got
player.
traded. I love James Shields. I think the Rays pitching was really what won a lot of their games with Price. I mean, Price won.
He's a beast.
Price won the
Cy Young.
And I thought that was an amazing win for Price. I thought he deserved it. I thought when they went to the All-Star game, I think Price should have pitched the whole thing. He pitched amazing, and Rays are so underrated right now, being in one of the hardest divisions in MLB with the Yankees and the Red Sox, plus Baltimore Orioles, who showed up last season. I think next season...
And the Toronto Blue Jays now. The Toronto Blue Jays just absolutely loaded up with guys. Now, I know they got R.A. Dickey, and everyone thinks, the knuckleball R.A. Dickey, they just got him. Everyone thinks he's Haas, run the Cy Young. He's a great pitcher. Okay, I'm not excited about facing him, but he did throw a one-hitter against us last year. But I think once we see him more and see that knuckleball more, that we're going to be able to hit him a little bit better than you may think we will. Because we didn't see him at all last year. We hadn't seen any knuckleballers last year, and he did one-hit us and threw a great game against us. It's not going to be like that as much now once we see him more often. But I'm interested to see David Price versus R.A. Dickey. That's going to be one matchup.
I have one thing that I do want to point out is that Evan Longoria,
oh my gosh,
one of the biggest stars of the Tampa Bay Rays. They got him after they went to the World Series. I think he has to show up next year. He can't get injured early. He has to be a leader because with the guys they're bringing up, he has to be able to lead them and put them in their place. We just had no one there to lead those young guys coming up from AAA. What are we supposed to do?
Yeah, you see you can look at the numbers and see the difference between when we had him in the lab and when we didn't have him in the lab. It was a big difference. He just his presence there makes us better. And now we have him signed for 10 years. If he can stay healthy, he's our team. He is what we are. David Price, Ben Zobrist. You can go on and on about that team. There's a lot to like, and I think we're going to be competitive.
Some guys have to pick it up over the offseason. Pena, he has to bring up his batting average. Pena's beans.
we forgot Pena signed with the Astros. That's breaking news, maybe, but
just came out. I'm an NBA guy, but Pena was one of my favorites. I want to have one.
I know all the inside stuff.
He's got all the inside stuff. I want to have one word.
To describe what?
To describe Tampa Bay Rays.
And you want to talk about clutch? Goodness, Evan Longoria is clutch. Did you see 162? 3-run homer in the 8th inning, down 7-3 we were down. 3-run homer, and then in the 12th inning to hit that other homer.
You don't want to give him time. You don't want to give him time to pull off any miracles.
If he can stay healthy, he is the best third baseman in baseball. Don't give me, anybody else. He is the best third baseman in baseball if he stays healthy. Now, if he does, he's got to stay healthy. That's the main thing. He was riddled with injuries last year. Even at the end of the season, when he was hitting well, he was still injured. He couldn't run. He couldn't steal a base.
Mm-hmm.
He looked like a shell of himself running the bases.
Yeah. And
he still hit pretty well. 17 home runs, missed 3.5 months.
If you want to believe in miracles, Evan Longoria is the guy to look at. I want one word to describe what the Rays need to do to come out first in their division. One word.
I got 2 words. Is that okay?
2 words. That's fine. A phrase, even. One word to describe what they need to do.
Now I'm going to beat this like a dead horse, but stay healthy. Longoria, David Price, the rest of the pitching staff, everybody has to stay healthy. If we stay healthy, if Evan Longoria stays healthy last year, we're probably in the playoffs. I don't doubt that at all. We came close as it was, and so you need to have your main player stay healthy. If you don't, we had no one back up Longoria last year. Now we got this Will Myers kid who looks really good, and a bunch of other pitchers, and we got a good, so
yeah, I agree.
We got a good foundation.
I agree. Stay healthy is exactly what I would put. You could put anything. Rays, they're always having to move around players. I think if they can stay healthy,
continue.
Their players will master one position and they'll be almost unstoppable.
Yeah, because we can't just go out and get the big hoss free agent guys because we have no money to spend. The Yankees have their $200 million that they can go spend. We don't have that because no fans come. But I went to 10 games last year, so I feel like I'm doing my part.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to
games.
We went to a couple games together.
They're handing out free tickets. One thing, Rays StubHub. You want to go to a great game. Rays indoor ballpark, Tropicana Field, one of the best fields in MLB. I don't see why they make it so. I don't see why they put it down so much. But if you want to go to a game for under $10, you take your girlfriend, take your family, take your kids, take whoever you want. It's a great game, and you can get great seats. Me and him went to a game for $5. Now the seats you can get. There's not a bad seat in the whole entire ballpark. Why everyone hates it, I have no idea. It is beyond me. It's a good ballpark. If you're in the middle of the summer and down in Tampa, it is warm in the summer.
That's when you play baseball in the summer. It is really, really warm outside. And if you want to sit out there and watch a game, it's still fun. But out in the heat, it's not nearly as fun as sitting in 72 degrees watching a game. It doesn't make any difference. It's like, it's outdoor.
Never get rained out. You never have to worry about getting rained out in Florida. But for right now, we're going to move on to NCAA. I have a couple questions for Austin here. Okay, Austin, everyone knows, everyone's looking forward to that Notre Dame-Alabama game that's coming up.
Yeah.
That's a huge game. But even to come, people might watch this after this game is over. How do you think that game's going to affect, especially if Alabama wins with the SEC, how do you think that's going to affect future years for NCAA football?
The SEC has been so dominant the last couple of years that we're at 500 in the bowl games right now, the SEC is, and I'm a Florida Gators fan. And this is after Wednesday night, which was the Louisville game, and I wasn't happy about that, but the SEC is at 500 in their games. That is good for most conferences. The ACC, he's a Florida State fan. The ACC would take that any day.
Of course.
Not to down your conference. Florida State's a good team. Florida State's a good team, but they'll take that any day. It's like a bad thing. It's like the SEC is like having a down year because we're 500, and we're the SEC's been so dominant that it's almost like if Alabama wins, it's like it's really expected. Isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
SEC's expected.
It's like everyone always expects if an SEC team isn't in the national championship, I mean all the rest of
the world would have come to an end if the SEC team hadn't been in the national championship.
Everyone's
that's shocking.
What I have to ask is, if the SEC team keeps this up, SEC, do you think NCAA will do anything to put them, maybe help them out? I see they're already trying to raise teams moving to other conferences. They're raising the price huge amounts for teams to move to other conferences. They're trying to do something, but what other teams are there to move into the SEC?
I can't imagine conference realignment by moving a powerhouse SEC team into a different conference, but it's basically what you're going to have. I don't see it changing. I think the SEC is going to be dominant for as long as they have college football, unless there's some, big time conference realignment. But I mean, what are you going to take, Florida or Georgia or Alabama or LSU out of the SEC and move into a different conference? I don't see that happening.
I mean, how do you think, for a minute, let me say something, how does the SEC hurt itself only because Georgia and Alabama are playing in that game? One of them's moving on to the national championship and one of them's stepping back. So does it hurt each other? I mean, you see teams like Texas A&M, they're great teams.
Yeah, they
probably win the championship in any other conference, but in the SEC they happen to be one of the worst.
That's what I was about to say, is Texas A&M, the SEC scored big this past offseason. They got Texas A&M, who was a beast this year with Manziel, and a decent Missouri team.
Of course.
They got it big. They just fed their already dominant self by getting two other pretty good teams to add. I mean, now you look at how deep are we? You got LSU, Alabama, Arkansas, who's usually pretty good, had an off year this year, and just one conference one division of the SEC, and then you got Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, and Texas A&M. No, Texas A&M in the East or the West. Is Texas A&M in the East or the West?
They're you guys.
They're in the East then. So and then you got Missouri too. So it's very deep, and then the ACC, who has Florida State and Clemson, and that's it. So
there's no question that being in the SEC has its advantages and disadvantages, being having to compete with each other, maybe even playing teams that might drop you out of a bowl game.
Yeah.
But being in the SEC, of course, has its bragging rights. So do you think
that's one thing?
If you had to pick someone, if you had to pick a team, take someone for Florida State, for example, in the ACC, a good division, Clemson, teams, Duke. I mean, they're not good, but they're stepping it up in their lineup. What do you think? Would a team like Florida State, why would they want to move to the SEC, and why would they not?
Oh, that's an easy question. It's a good question, but it's easy to answer. SEC teams get favoritism, and it's easy to see. They always, and I'm an SEC kid, obviously, with the Florida Gators. We've always gotten favoritism over Big 12 teams or ACC teams or other conferences because of the schedule we play. We had the toughest schedule this year and went 11-2. They're gonna take that over an undefeated ACC team probably any day, unless they're unless they had some abnormally tough schedule. That's what it's gonna be. It's just the SEC always is gonna be big time.
Yeah, any team like Ohio State, you got to question them. Would they have gone undefeated if they weren't in the division that they were? They were playing. Their hardest game was almost Michigan, and Michigan is losing to teams like Alabama. They're losing to teams like they just lost to Oklahoma.
No, South Carolina.
South Carolina. And South Carolina and Alabama, my bad, are both in the SEC. So, you got to take teams. I mean, you got to look. That's why the computers, they take all that stuff.
They gotta get rid of that.
I mean, you gotta look at it. Perfect season. It brings its bragging rights, but you gotta look at who you have a perfect season with. You saw Northern Illinois, Florida State played. They went 12-1 in the MAC-10. But the MAC-10, they face Florida State in the Orange Bowl and get absolutely slaughtered. So, every division has its ups and downs. But some teams say they can't play with the big dogs. But, it's all about, when you finally, that's what I love about bowl games is, you're getting out of your conference realm and you're facing someone different. Austin, what do you explain about what's a word that you could explain about the dominance of the SEC?
Dominance of the SEC.
One word. I gotta say, almost something like a have you ever been? I don't know exactly what it's called, but have you ever been to old dumps and things where they're gonna crush those big machines? Crush all the scrap metal. That scrap metal, those scrap cars, the scrap metal. Metal might look tough to some people, but the machine, it's nothing. And I think that's how I describe the SEC is that metal is not dominated I mean, there's just one thing that's sitting there that's bigger than everything else. And right now, I take it as the SEC, and I think that they're definitely the conference to beat. And if you can play someone in the SEC, that's definitely when you can get the bragging rights if you win.
All right. Thank you, Ross. Tell us your opinions, what you think about us, what you think. Questions, anything. Comment right below here, and like our video, subscribe. We'll be bringing more videos hopefully soon.
Yeah, of course. We'll always bring new NBA. Maybe a little bit more NBA as things are happening.
Yeah, we don't just talk about teams that we necessarily like. Give us. This is just our first video. Give us teams that you want to talk about, topics that you want us to talk about. Anything, your opinions, anything.
You want to talk about young teams, teams anywhere from how the Clippers are rolling over other teams. Young teams like the Nuggets, the Nets with Joe Johnson and Darren Williams. Teams with players that soon could maybe turn into teams that could be unstoppable. You look at teams like Oklahoma and Miami. We can talk about anyone on the roster. We can talk about anything. You want other things like NHL, NASCAR, anything you want. We got it here at
All Sports News.
We're done. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.